My Sunday story. We all wish that the rat race of our lives, running through all the nights and days, gets slowed down sometime. So the night is granted to the body to rest, tired of the daily grind. One day in the week is also kept free for that. When the yearning of our belly chases you, the night too has to be used like the day. One may have to toil even by the night to feed the empty stomach. Then, a free day like Sunday serves as a tonic. Maybe that's why employed people have a weekly holiday on Sunday. A farm laborer gives the beasts of burden, the bullocks, a holiday on Monday. The laborer too gets the day off with them. Then everybody uses that day the way he likes. For that day, they are kings, without a kingdom, of course. During my childhood, though the school had a holiday on Sunday, I often felt like wishing there was no Sunday at all. Sunday was a curse for me, especially when I was struggling for my education. During primary and high school days, I would never enjoy Sunday like a chocolate just placed on my tongue, but which I never got to chew tastefully. Unlimited poverty overflowed in our family. My parents worked on meager daily wages in farms. Their life was worn out in tilling the land belonging to others. With my feeble shoulders, I would try to support their frantic efforts to keep the wheels of the bare household running. Right from my fifth, sixth standard, I contributed the tiny pinch of my efforts to their handful of hard rigor, for which I found Sundays helpful. The school being closed on Sundays, my classmates would go swimming in the river. They would step out at 10 in the morning with a packed meal and returned home only after 4 when thoroughly tired. Some played on the banyan tree till they had exhausted the tree itself. Some went fishing, others played marbles, witty dandu, spun tops, or flew kites. They would keep playing till fatigued when I would be working hard collecting firewood in the forest. As my school did not have tiled flooring in classrooms, the task of layering the ground with cow dung would fetch me an anna or two. So, the morning would be spent scouting for cow dung, afternoon in plastering it on the ground of the classrooms. As the school was held in 3 places, I had to undertake the pilgrimage of carrying the cow dung and water to all 3 locations. By the time I had finished cleaning the containers, my hands and feet at the end, my Sunday would be over. In case any time was left, there was also the daily task of fetching water for our family from the river and filling the clay jars with them. There was another task on Sunday mornings during primary school. That was getting the grain ground into flour. Previously, my mother used to get up early morning and grind the grain herself at home. Sometimes I used to help her. But later, the daily toil blistered her hands so much that she decided to get it ground from a mill. There was no mill in our hamlet. For that, I had to trudge to a village 4 miles away. A lot of people used to carry the millet in bundles over their shoulders to the mill. Since I was free from school only once a week, I had to do the holy task in order to provide for our daily meal, always on Sunday. Had my father made the trip, he would have lost the wages for one day. So I had to tread over thorns and stones, through rivulets and brooks, shifting the loaded bag from one shoulder to the other, holding it like a baby. I would return home late at night, face and hair covered with flour. Half the night would be spent in removing the thorns from my feet. At times, we wouldn't have enough grain to grind, due to which I would be saved from undertaking this tiring task. I used such Sundays to complete my studies and wash my uniform. It also gave me the chance to swim or play a little. While my parents would step out to work right since 7:30 every morning with their spades and hoe, I had school both morning and evening. So, every Sunday, I had the additional task of collecting my parents' wages. Rustic farmers who otherwise had everything did not have the resources to hand over the dues to their labor. Why then would they pay us just after the work was completed? Some great masters would also dilly dally the wages and the earlier weeding of the fields, even right after the ready harvest was stacked. Since we lived from hand to mouth, neither could our hearts be lit unless the wages were recovered, nor could we get to eat a morsel of food till then. Such times made me undertake the task of extracting overdue pending payments on Sundays. Now and then, father would even borrow money when he went to the temple or the village square. However, for a villager whose life was limited to credit and debt, a single rupee seemed to be as enormous as the wheel of a cart. And what were the daily wages those days? About 60 years back? A man who toiled the whole day got an anna and a quarter. A woman who labored as much was handed only an anna or a three-fourth, while a boy like me studying in the sixth class would get a pittance of 6 annas. Many a Sunday have I spent on weeding the farms with my parents, while several Sundays were also utilized to going around and collecting our dues. The entire morning would be taken up by this holy task. If someone paid in kind, the rest of the day would be spent in carrying the given grain and then cleaning it. The grain handed to labor was always second grade, mixed with darkened powder. We had no alternative but to accept it and clean it well, the good deed for that Sunday. After completing primary school, I ran from pillar to post for my further education, but that was in vain. I went to my aunt to study. I stayed there for 4 months but only learned other household work. I received the basic training equivalent to a certificate as a manservant in return for 2 daily meals of just bhakri and amti. In the meanwhile, I got admitted to a school for agriculture. Everything was free there: lodging, boarding, and uniform. There at last, I could embrace the Sunday that I had missed, as Sunday was a holiday for the school. Initially, I took full advantage of the Sundays, going for walks, taking a nap, reading books, talking to friends, the Sunday would get blown like cotton. Other friends would go watching movies. I would utilize the Sunday gazing at the beautiful large posters. After viewing the idols of gods and goddesses put outside the theatres, to my satisfaction, I would return to the hostel. These sights brightened my Sundays, though it meant walking barefoot for 3 miles. While I was in the second year of the School of Agriculture in Solapur, I decided to learn tailoring for future use. Why did I choose this skill? That time, I had speculated that as long as people required clothes to wear, tailoring would always be in demand, which seemed a practical plan to me. So, I contacted an old tailor who seemed to need me too. I began going to his shop on Sundays to learn this everlasting trade. For a month, he just gave me groundwork like sweeping the shop, cleaning the machine, filling water, and threading the needle. Later, I got a promotion with the mentor, which was making buttonholes. Since there was no buttonhole machines then, they had to be handmade. As I was sincere in sewing buttonholes on the garments, I could not leave till evening. So the wait for Sundays was sort of soon up. I offered my services to tailor Men Kudale for 25 to 30 Sundays in 6 to 7 months. But he did not let me progress beyond buttonholes. Not once did his teacher let me sit at the machine or even move its rattling wheel. Never did he show me the cutting of clothes, how to stitch them, leave alone even talking about the tailoring methods. So, there was no question of any demonstration of the skill. Deciding that enough was enough, I freed myself of the thread hung around my neck. It also liberated my Sunday that was shriveled up like the shred of a rag. Never did I look for another master tailor after that. Later, when I was admitted to high school, I got shelter in a hostel with some facilities. A patil had started the hostel. It was customary for inmates to give him provisions like pulses or grains according to their circumstances. I could only offer my labor. How could I give anything in kind? My parents had recently passed away within a year of each other due to minor illnesses. So, I made up by using my holiday on Sundays to chop firewood for the hostel, layer its ground with cow dung, and maintain the cleanliness there. So, once again, I was at loggerheads with Sunday. Sunday was a torture for me, and I squeezed it as much as possible. I used whatever free time was left to learn the spellings in English and sway with the forest of conjugations like Devaha, Devau, Devaha in Sanskrit. I would catch up with all my pending studies on Sundays. Therefore, my condition was like a beast of burden. I just could not enjoy a holiday. Plus, there was another impediment. I never had textbooks for all the subjects. I bought only a few and borrowed others from friends to study. As Sunday was a holiday, many friends from my hostel went home on Saturdays. So I would borrow their books till Monday morning. Thus, I had to continue reading them till late every Sunday night. A friend called Aglave lived with me in the hostel. He was a firm devotee of the goddess of sleep. He was a robust fellow. As he was well off, he would be feeding himself constantly. When he had gorged enough, he would go off to sleep. After he fell into a slumber around 5 o'clock on Saturday evenings, he would get up only at 9 or 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings. That too because he would be hungry. Sprinkling water on his face, he would start eating. By noon, he would be asleep again, right until someone trampled him on Monday morning. His being asleep was an advantage to me. I would keep awake with his books, studying away. He never saw the morning sun for 4 years till we completed our matric exam. And I could never have sufficient sleep in order to get to study from his books, as I didn't possess my own copies. Sunday happened to be the market day in the area. So, children like me who lived for free had to accompany the patil to collect in sacks the vegetables that he took away from the baskets of the women selling them. The women folk would curse, rant, and rave. Their verbal abuse made our Sundays colorful. On returning to the hostel, we had to fulfill the holy task of cleaning and cutting the vegetables. Before we could even realize it, our Sunday would just get over. This Patil, who was in charge of our hostel, had a strange practice. Every Sunday, he would get his body massaged for half an hour to 45 minutes with oil before having his bath. Since he lived at the hostel and not at his farm, this responsibility of rubbing oil and kneading his muscles fell on the shoulders of 4 or 5 boys like me. We would sweat and get exhausted massaging his body, bloated like a fully stuffed sack. We ended up seeing stars in the daytime. Our Sunday flowed away with his bath water. We dreaded this drudgery so much that we began wishing that Sunday wouldn't come at all. Besides all these activities, I used the free time on Sundays to manage my school expenses. I used to sell salt and coconuts at a grocer's for a meager payment. I would babysit the Patil's young son, carrying the 2-3-year-old boy around their orchard. I worked as a cook come odd job man for a Nayab Tehsildar who lived alone. Those days, I would often wish that I could get at least one Sunday of leisure just for myself. I wanted my mind to be free. I wanted to have been able to have a full meal and sleep to my satisfaction. I felt like going to a restaurant to eat some tasty food, watch a cinema that tickled me, roam around wearing good clothes with my hair all puffed up. I felt like losing myself reading a flowery novel. I felt like losing myself reading a flowery novel, lie down soaking in the moonlight under the stars. But alas, I could never experience such a Sunday till I got a job and saw better days. Now, I am free of my job and all other problems. I have a lot of time at hand. Life has ripened to maturity. With growth complete, my being can cease to exist any day. I have plenty of time to sleep but do not feel sleepy. My tongue had been deprived, but now my appetite cannot stomach any pampering. I cannot walk too far any longer. I have a home theater, but I no longer feel at home with it. Although every day is now a Sunday, I cannot embrace it. I am not able to see clearly even if I feel like going sightseeing. Then I close my eyes and turn my vision inwards, moving from the present to the past. I play with the memories of the Sundays of my boyhood. Those same Sundays now give me the experience of fragrant, brilliant, starlit nights.